Hi, everybody. Time again for another Word Balloon comic book conversation. This is John Suntress. Man, I'm going to start a two-parter today that is frankly exceptional. And I know I've been using that word a lot this month. But, you go back and look at the list of guests that we've had, and I honestly think they and the conversations they provided justify that. I'm talking about great guests like, let me just off the top of my head, Alex Ross, John Morris. My last episode was a really fun talk about the Golden and Silver Age. Alex Ross goes back and gives us his candid views on where the superhero is. If you like old Hollywood, Don Nunley, the prop master on the Steve McQueen film Le Mans, gives a perspective that is unique because he was there and had a lot of great old Hollywood stories. Jim Zub updates us on Glitter Bomb, his wrap-up to Thunderbolts, and what's coming as he moves on to his next Marvel assignments. He's going to be doing a lot for the Secret Empire event. Gary Gianni gave us a great talk about his recent collaboration on Hellboy. Had an amazing Ray Bradbury story, and I always love talking about things with Gary because we share the same interests, and it was a lot of fun and deep dive into older geek continuity. His wrap-up run on Prince Valiant, the comic strip continues, but he gives us his insight on working on a daily adventure comic strip. We had Alex Segura talk about how to build a detective novel. And I'm leaving stuff out. We also had Jerry Duggan, Aaron Cooter, and Jordan White talking about their run on the Guardians of the Galaxy in a Marvel press conference. And, of course, Rob Salkowitz talked about the big debate right now in comics, and that is comic book diversity and the direct market. And, can the big publishers serve both interests as they try to, and how well they're doing? Is it impossible? Great conversation with Rob. And to culminate, April, I present this two-parter with Dan Slott. And Dan is back. Last time we talked to Dan, as I say at the beginning of our conversation, it was the press conference to the Clone Conspiracy. And we also we talk about the wrap-up of that, his thoughts on that compared to other events. Of course, a deep dive into the Spider-Man universe. Not only do we talk about Dan's work on Amazing and the Cloning Conspiracy, but we get into the creation of Silk, what's going on in the other books, whether it's Venom or the wrap-up to Dennis Hopeless's Spider-Woman, and great thoughts from not only Dan, but other Spider-Man creators that Dan has encountered. And then, of course, we have to talk about Doctor Who, because it's back, new season, season 10. Really season, 32 or whatever, if you go back to 1962. But really great thoughts on where things are. 63, I guess, for Doctor Who. See, that's the nerd in me. We always got to correct ourselves. Always have to prove ourselves. But this is a really fun conversation, and it went a hell of a lot longer than Dan and I expected. Almost 4 hours, and that's why it's broken up into two parts. You'll get part one today, and before Sunday is through, we will give you part two. But, man, just a really, really fun talk. So big. I mean, this is all the stuff we talked about in part one, and then the stuff we talk about in part two is equally insane. So a lot of fun, a lot of interesting thoughts from Dan Slott on today's Word Balloon. Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you, League, for your support via Patreon. More new subscribers this month. I can't thank you enough. Some really fun things have happened because of your involvement with Word Balloon, supporting it as you do. And if you can spare, if you think the content is good and you think you can spare the price of a comic book a month, is that too much to ask in supporting Word Balloon? Go to wordballoon.com, click on the Patreon ad, it will take you to my Patreon page. And let me thank all of you who have contributed over the years to Word Balloon. Thank you very much for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners. Word Balloon is also brought to you by InStock Trades at InStockTrades.com, and there are great books waiting for you at InStock Trades at great prices. Some great books from this week. You can get Batman, Two-Face, Face-to-Face, Deluxe Edition. Don Kramer is the artist. Our friends, both. Man, all three of these guys. I like all of them. James Robinson, Don Kramer, and Leonard Kirk. Great guys. Two have been on Word Balloon. Len hasn't been on yet, but I feel like that's just an inevitability. Simone Bianchi gave us the cover, And this is really a great deep dive into the mind of Harvey Dent in a way that only James Robinson and Kramer and Kirk can provide. 50% off. It's just $17.49. You can get Black Widow trade paperback volume 2, No More Secrets. The wonderful team of Mark Waid and Chris Somney. 42% off. It's just $10.43. Justice League volume 2, Outbreak from Brian Hitch and Matthew Clark. Excellent stuff. And also, who else? Neil Edwards is in there. Daniel Henriquez and Adriano Lucas are among the creative team on this volume. It's 42% off, $9.85. I feel bad when I just talk about mainstream books. There's Saga, the deluxe edition hardcover volume 2. Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples. Great collection. Wonderful book. 42% off, $28.99. Just a few of the books on sale at InStockTrades.com. You'll find what you're looking for at amazing prices. And don't forget, if your orders are $50 or more, you receive free shipping from InStockTrades.com. All right, without further ado, let us pick up our conversation with Dan Slott. This is a big one, a long one. It's Bendis tapes long, and that's good because Dan's an interesting deep thinker, is doing amazing stuff, not only on Spider-Man, but also Silver Surfer. The majority of the Silver Surfer talk comes in part 2, but part 1 you're going to love. Lots of Spider-Man talk and insight from Dan Slott on Word Balloon. Always happy to welcome Dan Slott back to Word Balloon. Last time we heard Dan on the show was the Marvel press conference for the Clone Conspiracy. And a lot has happened since then. Many issues and even an anniversary issue of sorts.
Oh my God, it's been that long. No, because you say Clone Conspiracy and it's like rings in a tree to me. It's like, oh, that was the year we had the drought. Look at the size of that ring. It's so tiny. Then this year it was flush. You know, it was the Clone Conspiracy was, oh man, that was crazy getting through all of that.
Worked out. Good story.
I never know how we're going to get through any event until it's over.
Sure.
And then it's done, and I'm like, God bless you, editorial, for cracking the whip, for keeping that going. And every time we get through one of them, I always go, I am never doing one of those again.
All right.
I'm going to sit on my little Luke Skywalker lonely island, and I am just going to write my stories. I'll be happy.
I've been impressed that I saw there is a collected edition, and my fear was slightly alleviated in terms of it seems to have the entire story, not just the 5-issue event, but also the Amazing Spider-Man issues and the Omega issue and all that good stuff.
It's weird. When we did Spider-Verse, we thought it would be so much nicer to the readers if we all, like, in the collection, treat it like like one of those. What's that called? Is it a parfait? That, like, Jell-O thing where it's
with the layers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we kept everything separate and let the reader, instead of trying to slice it all up and make it chronological, we thought it would be cleaner. Like the look of it it's everything by this one artist and one writer. It's everything by this one writer and one artist. And then you could work it out. And I can't tell you the number of fans I've met at cons who were just livid over this. There's so many copies of Spider-Verse where people have taken multicolored tabs all over the top.
Collate it.
Yeah. So they can figure out the correct order to read it in. So we did it the same way in that collection, but this time we provided a treasure map. Like, if you really want to know, this is the official order. That's here it is all in one piece, like a parfait, looking nice and clean. But here's the magic treasure map if you really want to read it in order.
I hope the pages are strong enough to handle everyone rifling back and forth.
It's like, it's tricky because you look at something like Silk or The Prowler and you kind of want it to read in one piece. but it also, it's.
I don't know, Dan. I honestly, I hear what you're saying, but I got to be honest. I would say no. Give it to me chronologically. I really think that's like a big barrier for the big two in terms of we got to keep the art pristine. And there, something honestly, because I do want to. Obviously, I want your opinion, but there are things like Silver Surfer when we get to it that, God forbid, you had done an issue without Mike and Laura.
Mike and I were just talking about stuff like that today. No, I hear you. It's weird. You'll get this reference because we're the same age. Yeah. But it was like it's a floor cleaner and a dessert topping.
Exactly. Shimmer.
You want it to be both things.
SNL. Maybe first season SNL, but definitely early SNL because it was a Dan Aykroyd. Or no, it was a Chevy commercial. So it was definitely first season.
No, it's Dan Aykroyd with the mustache.
Oh, I thought, okay. So then it's still his first season. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's still like core Saturday Night Live. But I'm sure I've done this gag for you before. It's the old Yiddish joke with the wife with the two ties.
I don't know that one. Go ahead.
Old Yiddish joke. My grandma used to love telling it. Where a wife gets her husband for his birthday two ties, a red tie and a blue tie. And the next morning he gets up, heading down for breakfast, and he thinks to himself, I'm going to show my wife how much I like that, how much I appreciate her gift. And he puts on the red tie, straightens up, goes down to breakfast, goes, huh? And she looks at him and goes, what's the matter? You don't like the blue tie? And that is every fan of any kind of like a hardcore thing like comics or Firefly or anything. Whatever you do, there's two options. You're not going to make anybody happy.
That's true. We'll get, and of course, we're going to talk Doctor Who because new season has begun, so we can discuss we can discuss pilot.
Yes.
The first episode and everything, but no, and I'm glad you understand where I'm coming from, and I think where a lot of readers are coming from in terms of just do the story, man. Like however it can come out, and I mean, hey, like you said, editorial. As far as I know, there was no delays on Clone Conspiracy.
Oh no, it all just came out very nicely and lovely. Everything like smooth. We had a thing where, it's with Spider-Man and Silver Surfer. One of those two properties obviously makes Marvel more revenue. So they crack the whip harder on Spider-Man.
Sure.
And if there's a situation where they need Spider-Man and Silver Surfer out of me, they go, put the Silver Surfer over there and get us that Spider-Man.
I get you.
Like, Spider-Man can't miss shipping. Ever.
How many times a year? Is it 18 or is it more?
Oh God, there's stuff I gotta watch where I gotta can I tell John the whole story now, or is this something where I have to tell you now that it's many years later, let me tell you the real story. Right. But yeah, we with Spidey, when we were working on it in Brand New Day, it was 3 times a month. Mm-hmm. And then with Big Time, it was 2 times a month. And I had talked to them at one point going I am burning out. This is tough. To produce it this rapidly and this fast. And when you do that, it's not a secret. I talk about it a lot. One of the trials of doing Spider-Man is that you're constantly writing it out of order. Mm-hmm. I have multiple stories going at the same time, and to work with multiple artists, you have to be telling chapter 2 of this story while that guy is drawing chapter 1 of the next story, and that other guy is drawing chapter 3 of the third story. And it's all coming at you. So you're constantly writing everything out of order. And there's no, if you're writing a book like I do with Mike with Surfer, where you tell one issue at a time, you tell it each month. If something organic happens in the story, you go, I wanted to, explore that, or what if we did this, or what if we did that? There's a whole different way you can do this, tell that kind of story. But with Spider-Man, all the trains are running on time. there is no, you don't get to add an extra issue to that story. You don't get to do this or that because we know the other train is lined up on the tracks.
Got it.
And it all has to match and it all has to go together. So so there is a little, inflexibility because of that. And that's part of the challenge of working on Spider-Man. And it's an extra plate you have to keep spinning. And sometimes it goes to your favor where they'll come by and they'll go, we are Marvel and we need you to tie in to this year's big event. Mm-hmm. And you kind of look at them and you go, I ain't doing that because all the trains are lined up and your event is 6 months in the future and we're already 7 or 8 months in the future. Wow. We don't have the maneuverability to do the event right now. So here's my suggestion. What if we have a side Spider-Man miniseries and maybe we can get Chris Gage to write it and I'll give some notes and we'll see how it can all line up, and editorial will be great with that. And then there's some cases with stuff like Secret Wars or Secret Empire. There's a lot of secrets, aren't there?
Yes, indeed. I was going to ask about Secret Empire, but I think you just telegraphed, but go ahead.
But where they'll go, this is really important and we really think Spider-Man should be a part of it. We're going to work this out far enough ahead that no matter how you're doing the trains, you are a part of this. So with that, we had Renew Your Vows ready to go and boom. And with this, I'm currently working on Secret Empire issues. So it all ties in with what Nick's doing. It's a different kind of challenge. But stuff like that, it can burn you out because It's not just like writing a normal book. It's writing a normal book, while standing on one foot and, rubbing your belly and patting your head. There's a kind of, people look at stuff like that Silver Surfer issue where it's a Mobius strip and half of it's written upside down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a blessing. I'm usually you don't see the extra maneuvers we have to do and the brain power that you got to spend to make sure that Spider-Man works. And I had asked Marvel at one point, can we drop down from 24 to 18 issues a year? And they were like, yeah, sure. And that's one of the reasons I think there was a Spider-Man Deadpool book. Because you want X amount of Spider-Man stuff coming out, and we were going down to 18 a year.
Did Gerry write that? Who wrote the Spider-Man Deadpool book?
Oh, Joe Kelly.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, that's awesome, man. There's a guy that knows both characters inside and out. Very good.
Yeah, so that's one of the origins of the Spider-Man Deadpool thing. That like that's not the only reason it happened, but that was a factor into it happening. Was we were dropping down to 18 on Amazing. And now, but what happened with Clone Conspiracy, where lots of different things happened where we talked to editorial and editorial talked to us and the story kind of expanded and it became its own thing. And Amazing then tied into it. So you needed 5 extra issues of Amazing. And I asked if Chris Gage could help me out. I made a deal with Marvel that we could drop down and go monthly for a while because I wanted to catch up on Surfer so that Surfer could be monthly for a while. Because I felt like it was we abandoned it.
Okay.
You look at the schedule for Surfer during Clone Conspiracy. And it became so infrequent that Newsarama did an article on it. And people were like, "Oh my God, so it's taking forever for Surfer to come out." It's like, thank you, Newsarama, for pointing that out. That's made my day.
Isn't it weird, given again our ages, that we live almost in this 24/7 comic book news cycle? Like, did you ever fathom that there would be that much? Given that we grew up on Amazing Heroes coming out every month in the Comics Journal and. Comics Interview, and, we had our nice little monthly interview, this is pre-Wizard even.
Yeah, it scares me. The news cycle is that small that became a story. But I made that deal with Marvel, so it was like, let's get Surfer back on schedule. And so I can have the bandwidth to do that. Can we go down monthly for a while?
Yeah, Dan, Jesus, man. I mean, honestly, believe me, it is a concern because you're a great Spider-Man writer in particular. Do you I'm sure you keep count of how many issues you're at.
Yeah.
And I know you've got the record.
I hate saying that. Okay, yes, I do.
But I'm going to say it. I said it. You didn't say it.
Okay.
But are you over 200 issues? It's got to be. Of course you are. You're 300?
It's tricky. You're friends with Brian, and when I talk to Brian about this kind of stuff,
what doesn't count?
Yeah, Brian's. I know
Brevoort. I know we've had this conversation before. Where you said Brevoort said annuals don't count, but go ahead.
Brian's take is you count everything, and I get really like a stickler because I'm kind of in the Brevoort camp. Like the annuals don't count, the miniseries don't count. These don't.
So Clone Conspiracy doesn't count in your head.
There's all these things that don't count in my head, and Brian's thing is like count it all.
Yeah.
And so there's multiple numbers. So there's I'm currently at 161 issues of the core title.
Okay.
But that's without counting it all. There's so many things that Brian would roll his eyes at me if I mentioned that didn't count. He's like, of course that counts.
Of course it counts. It's a story. It's a Spider-Man story. It's writing Spider-Man, man. Go on.
For example, I've done multiple free comic book day issues of Amazing Spider-Man. And to me, that doesn't count. I've done multiple .1 issues.
Right.
So do you count Learning to Crawl, which is, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5? Do you count, all these different .1 issues? There's so many. When you start adding up those as well, it throws another, this is going to sound crazy, it throws another anywhere from 30 to 40 issues.
Okay. So you are close to 200. Go ahead.
I'm very close to, if you use every part of the buffalo, I'm really close to 200. But if you want to be a stickler, I'm at 161.
All right.
If you want to be a stickler.
Well, because I know you just did the anniversary issue and everything, the 9.99 issue.
The issue 25.
Yes.
I did. There are times where I don't find out about stuff until we're in a big meeting. I knew that was going to be a double size issue.
Okay.
I didn't know about everything else that was going to go in. I was told, "Oh yeah, that's our 9.99." And I kind of did the spit take, the what?
The Danny Thomas spit take. Yes. All right. Go on.
And then the fans love it when we do that. but everything will be fine. Everything works out.
All right.
And then fans come at me going, I can't spend $10 on a comic, and I break the math down for them where I'm like, you're getting 40 pages of me and Stuart Immonen, so that's double size. So if you spend $3.99 on a comic, that's like getting two $4 comics. That's $8 right there.
What else?
There's a 10-page Superior Spider-Man, Superior Octopus story with me and Kevin Coley.
Right.
So right there, that's another $2. That's half a comic. So right there, you're at $10. And people go, what? And I do all the math, and I move all the, put the nut under the cup, and I spin it around, and I go, there, see, it works.
So it was 40 pages of you and Stuart, and then another
10
pages
of me and Giuseppe Camicoli, and so right there, you're at $10 clean.
What else is in there?
And then there was all these other stories.
How many?
There was a number where. But within that number, there was an 8 to 10 page Chris Gage story.
Nice.
With Clash and Spider-Man, which will circle back. It moves the ball down the field. There's stuff in that story that will come back into the book.
Right.
So it's important. You need to read it. And there was Hannah Blumenreich, who is amazing. She's an indie artist writer, and she did the Spider Zine, which everyone should go find, where she kind of, without Marvel's permission, did her own Spider-Man comics. And they're fantastic. They all they're all stories about heart. They're all stories about Peter Parker just dealing with the little things in life.
Cool.
And dealing with Aunt May, or just swinging around and hanging out with kids, or talking to people on the street. None of it is Spider-Man fights Scorpion. It's all heart. It's all just,
That's cool.
They're beautiful, beautiful stories, and they really get to what Peter Parker is all about and Hannah's take on it. And Nick Lowe reached out to her and said, "Would you like to do an all-new story? We'd love to run it in this special issue." And it's not just a standout in that issue. It's a standout in Spidey stories.
Cool.
I think Marvel would be crazy not to do a Hannah Blumenreich Spider-Man book.
Wow.
Yeah, she's just wonderful. And go and read if you have 25 and you don't like Hannah's story in there, you're crazy. Because it's so Spidey. But yeah, so, and I think it's also for people who have that itch. The Chip book is coming out soon. Spectacular.
Yes, go on.
That's good. That's just gonna be a wonderful book. There's stuff happening soon in Amazing, where we've had Spidey be a fish out of water and try to run this giant global Parker Industry company. Mm-hmm. And he very much global. So it's Spidey in London, it's Spidey in Shanghai, it's Spidey all over the world, being Spider-Man and having these enormous adventures that are kind of out of his usual pay rate. And part of doing that was we knew when we came out of Secret Wars that Miles was going to be now firmly in the Marvel 616. Mm-hmm. I'm not supposed to say 616. And so none of the listeners on your podcast should pass that along to Marvel. Nothing gets Brevoort, more on edge than someone saying 616. Like, this is the Marvel universe. There's no 616.
Tell that to the readers, man, who've been conditioned for the last 20 years. But go on.
I know.
Yeah, I love it. No, man, you're a reader
which is silly. It's something that starts in Alan Moore, Captain Britain stories and all that. That we're so over there.
Yeah, so maybe it's 30 years that it's been going on now that I say that.
Yeah.
That's true. Jesus.
But we knew that Miles was going to get cycled into this universe, and doing the Peter Parker story where he goes global kind of helped, because now Miles gets to be the New York Spider-Man.
I get you.
And using characters like Zodiac and whatnot, all these other things, it allowed other books like Spider-Woman and Miles and Silk, it allowed them to have more of the toy box, by having Spidey off in Japan and Spidey off in China and Spidey off in France.
Sure.
It allowed, we'd have these, at our company meetings, I'd be, okay, everybody, if you're using Spider-Man, he really shouldn't be in New York. He should be over here doing X, Y, and Z. And does he have? And people would be like, does he have an office in New York? Oh yeah, he operates out of the Baxter Building when he's in New York. But please don't use Spidey when he's in because these are the other characters. So if you're in New York, use Miles, use Silk, But if you want to use Spidey, try to have an adventure with him out of the country. And everyone would be like, okay, yeah, sure. And then they'd use Spidey in New York. And I get that, because everybody who's working on something at Marvel, when you come to Marvel and you're a writer and you get to work at Marvel, you want to use Spider-Man.
Of course. And
you want to use Spider-Man in New York. And I totally get that. But it would be like, guys.
I hear you. But again, that's where, don't let it get in the way of a good story, man. I got it. I was just, I forget who I was talking to about Dwayne McDuffie. And when he finally gets to write a Justice League comic book, cannot use a single goddamn frontline Justice League member, and to the point where he's like, well, how about the Atom? No. Well, how about Hawkman? No. Well, who do I get? Well, you got Plastic Man, you got Zatanna, you have Elongated Man, because you need 2 stretchy guys in one book. I mean, it was like, what the fuck? We wanted Dwayne McDuffie doing frontline Justice League like he did in animation so well. And it was what a wasted, period of time that poor Dwayne was writing the book. I'm still pissed.
it's very much a 4 legs good, 2 legs good, 4 legs good, 2 legs better kind of scenario. Because, when I was working on The Thing,
yes,
and I got to have them team up with all these other characters, because in my mind, I wasn't writing Thing. I was writing Marvel 2-in-1.
Damn straight you were. I remember we had that conversation, man. That was like one of our first talks. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was so happy. And when it was time to have Spidey show up in the book, they're like, oh, yeah, it's going to be great. He's in this new red and gold spider armor with 3 arms. And I was like, boot jets. I was what? And at one point I asked, like, and they're like, oh, and the suit has a camouflage mode. It can look like anything. And I'm like, can it look like the old suit?
Exactly.
They're like, yeah, but you shouldn't do that. I'm like, okay. And in the plot, I have a scene he's with the Thing, and the Thing's like, can you make that thing look like the old suit? Because I'm an old fogey and I'm the Thing, and that's what I want. And Spidey's like, give me $20, and he gives him $20. He makes it look like the old suit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because
go ahead.
Yeah, but my take was, it's like, I get to write Spider-Man, he's in the right suit.
Oh yeah.
I don't care what you're currently doing. And now that I'm on the other side of the equation, I'm like, no, he's in this spider armor. It looks like this, and that spider has a weird neon blue glow thing. So it better be that way in your comics, everyone. And everyone's like, rrr.
And so I'm looking at the next issue that's coming out 2027. And I'm looking at an Alex Ross cover, I believe, of Spidey fighting the Skrulls in said armor, correct?
And what?
They're at the end of issue 26. They tease the next issue.
They're
those are goblins. Those aren't Skrulls. Excuse me, they are Goblin Men. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, Goblin Masks. Issue 27. Every issue of Spidey now, it's like my jaw's on the floor. Is all this Stuart Immonen art where you go, there is nothing I can't throw at him, and that's the 27 is, army of Green Goblin guys, and Spider-Man's got this. I don't want to give too much away, but it's Silver Sable. I'm just throwing everything in the kitchen sink, and you get back Stuart Immonen art, and you're like, wow, there's nothing I can't throw at him that he can't just make look awesome.
Agreed.
Like big, like giant action set pieces or little tiny side moments with characters. Everything. It's weird. I've yet to find the thing where I break him.
Don't break him. We like him.
I don't want to break him. He's fantastic. He's amazing. And Wade von Grobbacher and Marte. Everybody on this team is stunning. All the artwork that comes in, you do kind of lose a good hour of your day when new art shows up, because you just kind of, the record scratches and you come to a stop and you go, I'm just going to look at this art for a while.
I don't blame you, man. And also Alex Ross covers.
Oh my God. This whole book is just nothing but blessings. So lucky to be with all these people.
No, it's a good story so far, man. And I love seeing Silver Sable back in this little interlude.
But yeah, like we were saying, we're getting to the point where Spidey's coming back to New York. Because when we come out of Secret Empire, and it's kind of fun, and it's cleaner that way, because Chip, he's happy because you get a chance to write Spidey and he's back in New York. It's like he started the right time where it's like, okay, now I see where we're going.
I got to look at the Free Comic Book Day flip book, so and it was because I had asked Nick to kind of keep me posted on Secret Empire, because we're going to probably follow that after the issue 1 comes out as well. So Marvel sent me that, and of course I got Spectacular Spider-Man Free Comic Book Day as well. Chip Chip delivered. Great first issue. That's all I want to say about it as far as any sort of review, because let people be surprised. But yeah, it's going to be great. I think he's got his voice down, and it's a very funny book, and it's great.
Chip's been wanting to do this forever, so the timing's all so good. I'm really happy at everything that's in the entire Spider line.
Cool.
Like everything. I was just talking with Mike Costa with what they're doing over in Venom. And Peter David is going to, and Bagley with Ben Reilly and Kane in their book.
Cool.
There's so much right down the center of the plate.
Hopeless with Spider-Woman, obviously.
Oh, the Hopeless Spider-Woman just wrapped up.
Aw.
Yeah, I know. It was so good.
All right, I've been trading it, so I didn't realize. And well, that's fine. Hopeless is a talented man, and I'm sure they'll find something else for him to do.
Yeah, and it went out like the way they wrote the book out it's just such a nice ending to the series. It's sad. It's like as some stuff stops, other stuff comes into motion, because that's the way it is in the world of the Spider-Verse. There's, I like that for many years now, we've kept this very wide net of, if there's something you like, we got it. We have all these different feels. Look over here, we got Spider-Man 2099, and over here we got Silk, and over here we got Spider-Gwen, and over here we got Miles. There's all these different Spider books with all these different feels. So if I'm not doing it for you, there's someone else over there who is.
Including Gerry Conway and Renew Your Vows.
Renew Your Vows with Conway and Stegman. Yeah. Oh, it's a good book.
Yeah, hey, man. No, I like my Dan Slott Spider-Man, but it's nice to see Gerry Conway Spider-Man again. You know?
Dude, it's like I get to read a Spider-Man book. It's like, no, it's weird. It's like sometimes like you leave a title and you suddenly realize, oh, I get to read it now. It'll surprise me and I won't know what's coming up.
Are you able to do that? Because I know people too that, like Marv Wolfman, I just talked to him in Utah and he was at a panel and he said no, when especially books that he created, he's like, I can't read other people writing it, and that way I can honestly say I'm really not reading it. Now he didn't. Now I asked him about things like Spider-Man. He's like, well, I didn't create Spider-Man, so he's able to go back. But some people, I always say it's like the hardware store.
I totally get that. I totally get that. When I left Batman Adventures, I could not read the thing that took its place.
Sure.
I was so mad that it was over. But one of the things that happens to me when I go to cons, and I love this, is there's X number of Spider-Man writers in the world, and when you meet each other, it's kind of like you're in a fraternity.
Sure.
Where it's more like not like creepy hazing fraternity.
Welcome to the Spider-Man Skull and Crossbones. Skull and Bones thing. more about old war veterans meeting up, like, oh, I remember my days in the Spider books. And you kind of, there's this thing where you all have in common and you get to swap stories and you get to hear things from guys. And something I've heard universally from everybody I've talked to, whether it's Conway or Roger Stern or Michelini, DeFalco, anybody, everyone has the same advice, like a different way of phrasing it, but it's all don't leave. It's very much a version of what Kirk says to Picard in Generations. Like, don't let him take you out of that chair. Like, while you're in that chair, you can make a difference. Everyone has that version, whether it's enjoy your time while you got it, or some people just being very blunt, don't leave, they don't ask you back. Sure.
It's very, it's like your term in office, Mr. President.
Right.
So that was like an advice everybody's given me. And one of the nice things is so many of the guys, they keep reading Spider-Man. And they'll talk to you and ask you questions about the stuff going on in the run. And it's great. You know, sometimes they know what you're doing because they've worked it. They know they've sat in that chair.
Sure.
Like when I was talking with Roger Stern, one of the first things I was saying was like, "I'm so sorry I've killed the Hobgoblin." You know, like I'm so sorry I chopped off his head, and we were alone. No one was listening, and he looks. He's like, "You didn't kill him." You know, he's like, he was wearing a mask. You chopped off the head of a guy wearing a mask. And I'm like smiling, like, yeah. And he's like, he totally knew how we were bringing him back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because he knows how the magic trick works. Sure. He knows the rabbit isn't in the hat. You know,
the best example of that I heard was talking to Brubaker right after he killed Cap. And he's like, Joe Simon, I didn't even have to see him. And, immediately all the news cameras, creator of Captain America, what do you think? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's a sad day. And it's like, yeah, bullshit. And, I mean, he's like, he knows the game. He knows, it's like, sure, I'll play along. At 90, he was still like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you say that. But then I get a call from Stan Lee's people after 700.
What happened? Oh, tell me.
No, and they're like, Stan wants to know, Peter Parker's coming back, right? Like, yeah, he's coming back. He's coming back in like a year and a half. Yeah.
Was it 500 where it was the Doc Ock?
700. Yeah.
No, not Superior Spider-Man. I'm going further back. Was it 600 or whatever? Where you have the big, and it was like a big giant issue.
Yeah. 600 with Doc Ock and Spidey.
Yeah. And my favorite little moment, of course. And I was wondering because again, I confess, did not buy the $9.99. Issue 25. But did you have a moment like you did in 600 where the Fantastic Four shows up completely ready to go and it's, oh, okay, he's got it. Never mind. Because that was a beautiful moment.
But what I was getting at was
go on, yes, excuse me.
One Spider-Man writer. It was like Michelini. Okay. He was like, yeah, when I stopped, I couldn't read Spider-Man anymore. Like and it was kind of like, I don't know what's going on in your book. It's not to be mean. Once I left, I had to put distance, So
it's like a girlfriend. I've heard other people say that, man. It's like, yeah, hey, who's my girl saying now?
Yeah, he's the only one I've really met like that. Where like, and part of me, I don't know how I'm going to feel because this has been such a big part of my life. I mean, I'm coming up on 10 years on the book.
Wow.
That's I'm coming up on that.
That's insane, but you forget how long it's been since One More Day.
And it's Brand New Day.
Well, no, leading up to Brand New Day. That's what I'm saying.
So much of this is such a part of my life now. Like it's like a fifth of my life.
Wow.
Is working on Spider-Man. And I was talking to Gerry. It was like the first time I was ever talking to Gerry. And he was just like, giving me kudos and going, I got to hand it to you because we're having that 3 times a month schedule and then going into 2 times a month with just me. And he's like, and he was looking at how long I'd been on. He's like, you are running a marathon, aren't you? And I'm like, Gerry, I'm doing this 2 or 3 times a month. I'm running a marathon of sprints. It's
sure.
The schedule. It's not just I've been doing it a long time. I've been doing it a long time at like an increased rate, like at this crazy schedule. So even though the book's been around since 1962, I'm close to having written. I'm over 1 out of every 5 of Amazing because we're just so many. So fast. It's, I say it a lot about how I treat the characters, but in a way, it's the way life has treated me. Is everything's a monkey's paw. Everything's you get what you want, but not the way you want it.
I hear you.
Like, if I got to design my own fate, I would, if I got to, make the wish. It would be, I would love to write Spider-Man once a month.
Exactly, sure.
But no, it's not. It's Lucy at the Chocolate Factory, and it's it's that way all the time. And it's the kind of thing where you can't grumble or grouse about it because you're writing Spider-Man for a living, you punk.
And that's enough, Dan, because honestly, a lot of your contemporaries, it is the grind of 18 or, plus issues that make them say, all right, I really do love what I've done, but I can't keep doing this. So what do you do? I mean, it is Spider-Man. Is there something else? Like is Silver Surfer your palate cleanser, or how do you do it when others can't?
It comes down to, it's like I see so many people like, badmouthing Cape books. Oh, indies are what it's all about. Those people over there,
Oh, please.
doing the Cape books. Why would you do that? And it's like, dude, I grew up with like Spider-Man footy pajamas. I grew up with like, he was my Mego action figure. He's my favorite character in all of fiction. And I get the privilege to be the guy who, telling these stories. It is such an honor to me. And I am just so tickled that I get to do this. It is the dream job. While I write this stuff, there was a time when I was a kid and I had this John Romita Sr. Spider-Man piggy bank. They're molded out of this one piece of plastic, and it was this bust of Spider-Man. And I used to put like the leftover money from lunch money in this thing, and it would fill up. And then one day it filled to the top. And I was a kid. I didn't understand what that, how much money was in there. I just knew that I'd hit this milestone. I'd filled the bank. So in my mind, it was a magic amount of money that could buy me whatever I wanted. And I said to my dad, like, I want to use this now. And there was this thing I wanted at a hobby shop, which was the Corgi Batman diecast metal Batcopter.
Nice, I remember that. Go on.
Yeah, based off the Adam West, the movie.
Yeah, the Batcopter, absolutely, man.
And I wanted this, and I think it was that kind of thing where my dad took me to the hobby shop, and I was going to open this bank, and he knew damn well if there wasn't enough pennies and nickels in this that he was going to cover the rest, because Dad,
good man, absolutely.
Yeah, so I go there, and then I'm lugging this thing in. And it weighs a ton.
To the hobby store.
Huge, to the hobby store. Hilarious. I put this thing down. And it's the first time I realize this is the most cheapo Marvel piece of plastic crap. There is no plug at the bottom. We're going to have to destroy the bank to get the money out. And it really is like that gift that people have of the little kid who can't bring himself to break the Spider-Man piñata. I was like close to tears because I was going to have to destroy this bank. And my dad was like, there is money in the bank. It is filled up. You're not just going to keep this forever, this giant lead weight, copper weight. We're going to open this up. So we opened it up. I was destroyed. All the money came out. They counted all the pennies and nickels. I'm sure Dad made up the difference. I got that copter. I love the copter. But I was telling Brevoort one day, like the sad story of the Spider-Man bank. And then one day, he gives me this package, and I open it up. He'd found one on eBay, and it's the exact same plastic bank when I was a kid. And that sits on the highest shelf, and it stares down at me every day when I'm writing Spider-Man. And whenever I kind of go, oh, I'm tired, or the bones feel weary, I look up and I go, I get to do this. I think about that 8-year-old kid and how, he would freak out if I ever left the book. There was a point when we were doing Brand New Day. I'm being very careful about how I tell the story.
Okay.
I'm not going to say what part of the run it was, but there was a point where we were going to have a big meeting to one of our Spidey summits. And one writer had kind of, they went, I think I'm done. And they decided they weren't coming to the summit. And another writer had kind of put a limit on how much they were going to do. and they kind of realized they weren't going to do the summit. So I'd kind of been told at one point, we're all getting ready to do this thing, and it's hard, man. And that was when we were coming out 3 times a month.
Yep.
So it was a grind, and it was spitting people out. And at one point, we're getting ready to head into our summit, and 2 of the 4 guys aren't going to be there. And they're telling me this news, and it's like, you're the team, man. You're the team. Imagine if it was like a relay race, and suddenly 2 guys weren't there at the race, and you'd be like, what? And it's a lot of work. And at one point, the 3rd guy hadn't called in yet because he was very busy. And there was this fear, like I was being embraced, that maybe there was going to be the Spider-Man summit. I was going to be the one guy who walked in,
Jesus.
And it wasn't, because the 3rd guy was like, oh, no, of course I'm coming. But there was this one point in time where we hadn't heard back yet, and dropping like flies, and I had lost it. I had just like freaked out, and people were like reaching out to me like, Dan, just so you know, and I'm like, what? Is the 3rd guy not coming? 3rd guy, and then I was like, F him, F everybody, put it all on my back, put it on my back. I'll do it all. Because it's Spider-Man.
Well, Monkey Paw had happened. Here you are.
Oh, well, I was very convinced because we all knew that we were going to do the 3 times a month as long as we could.
Okay.
And we went through 2 teams of 4. And
I forgot that. Go on.
Yeah, I was the one guy who crossed over from Team 1 to Team 2. And that was because, it eats people up.
Yeah.
And they were kind of amazed. Like, you're ready to go into Team 2? I'm like, I'm ready to go. Bring it on. But we always knew the end game was, we're going to do this as long as we can, and then we go down to 1 guy with 2. That was always the game plan. And as it became obvious when the life cycle was coming around that the next team of 4 was kind of done, it kind of, you could feel it in the air. We were going to go down to 2 with 1 guy. And I took a meeting with Wacker and Brevoort, but mainly with Wacker. Mm-hmm. But Brevoort was there kind of just like hovering over the lunch. Where I was putting forth, I was going, okay, here's my proposal to you. And I pitched Avenging Spider-Man, a Marvel team up. I pitched what was going to be the satellite book.
Okay.
Because I know we're coming down to this, and I would like to transition over to this book when we do this. And Wacker went, no. And I was like, damn it, I'm off. Because in my mind, they were either going to go for someone all new, or one of the fresher horses from the other 4. Because I'd been on the book for so long. And I just figured, well, that's it. My time on Spider-Man's over. Done. And Wacker went, because I want you on the lead book. And I was like, but home? So, yeah, and that was big time.
Sure.
That was the big time run.
Oh, literally, that was big time.
That was the big time run.
I thought you were Donald Trump for a second. That's big time. Yeah.
Oh God, no. He says big league.
That's true. Big. Is it big league or big Lee?
It's big league, and everyone thinks he's saying big Lee.
That's what I thought too.
Who cares? Fuck him.
Yeah, I know. Fuck him indeed. But that has been driving me nuts for the last couple of weeks. It's like big league or big league. But go on.
No, it's big league. But it's fine. I mean, so many people at cons are like, I follow you just for your Twitter feed. Yeah, most of it, it used to be just Spider-Man, and Doctor Who, and now it's Spider-Man and, that Trump. I'm like an old man on the stoop.
Oh, I know. It's all right. I follow you. I know. I'm aware. Yeah. That's all right. God. No, hey, man. Hey, I'm glad you're willing to speak your mind still, man. It's Dan. The torchbearers are out, and sometimes I'm on their side, but not always. I got to be honest, and I mean, I always consider myself a left-leaning, old-fashioned liberal, and sometimes I see what the left does sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know if I completely agree, and I don't think that person's career should end. And I'm not talking about the X-Men shit lately.
Oh no,
this is all on me, by the way. Go ahead.
No. I take solace in how many people that are like hardcore, to the right that can't stand me, and how many people that are hardcore to the left that can't stand me.
Yeah.
So it's there seems to be like no one can rip on the left like the farthest left.
Well, and frankly, it happens on the right as well. Exactly.
Yeah, no, like the people who are the most extreme no one can rip into their own allies as just Agreed. God, you're like, please lock arms.
Exactly. It's like I thought we were on the same side here. I mean, again, calm down. But
we got stuff we got to do.
Yeah.
It's part of me gets madder, not at the the guys in the red hats. Part of me gets madder at the people who voted for Jill Stein.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you were in a swing state and you voted Indy, what were you thinking?
Well, exactly.
Why?
Hopefully lesson learned. But, I mean, again, and I understand every presidency is different.
John, no, it's never the lesson learned. It's never the lesson learned.
Because there's always a new generation, I guess.
Yes, because all these people who are like, I'm voting for Nader. And you're like, shut up. and then it's over, and they go, I shouldn't have voted for Nader. And you're like, yeah, you shouldn't have. And then he comes up to the next one, and it's like, they're both equally bad. There's no lesser of two evils. Oh my God, every day something happens where you feel like it's going to take years to fix this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I'll tell you though, Dan. Well, go ahead, finish your thought. I don't want to cut you.
Oh no, but it's like, like the oil line through Native American lands.
Yes.
Drilling in national parks.
I know.
There's certain things where you're like, oh God, Betsy DeVos.
The education.
Yeah. How are we gonna fix that?
Nah.
There's every day there's a new Planned Parenthood going on every day. They weren't spending tax dollars on abortions, you idiots. It was for cancer screenings and STDs and oh my God, what are you doing?
I hear you, man. I guess, and maybe this is false hope on my part, but I am reminded of the original Prisoner TV series episode, Free for All, where number 6 finally gets to, he runs in this ridiculous election.
I know the one you're talking about.
And he finally becomes number 2 and thinks I can change everything. And he's in the chair, in the round chair, and he's flipping buttons, and you're all free. I am deactivating everything. And nobody leaves and nobody pays attention because the government keeps running as it always will. And I think there was a nice moment of exposure this week with the aircraft carrier nonsense.
Oh, my God.
We're sending an armada. We're doing that. Yeah, hi, it's the Navy. We don't know what he's talking about. Back to you.
They just had the thing over at the Hill now, and I know it's a partisan kind of thing.
Well, we just
but That's they just had it where they had the people from insiders going, when he did that thing about the wiretaps, we had to scour and find anything we could to try to back up his crazy bullshit.
Well, they're going to get what Go ahead. I'm sorry. I talked.
But they're now coming out and admitting it.
Yeah, I know. Well, they got their Supreme Court justice. Once they get whatever they're satisfied with, whatever budget or whatever, you'll see the right taking a collective 2 steps back. And be like, well, that's the president. Sorry.
They didn't just get the Supreme Court. They were getting the Supreme Court justice.
Of course they were. Well, yeah.
But breaking the filibuster rule. Oh, my God. It's like, God, if you can hear me, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, just keep her alive.
Yeah, no kidding.
Keep her alive.
We'll see what happens. I know.
I know what's going to happen. You know, that new show, The Handmaid's Tale. Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yikes!
We're gonna be in freaking Hunger Games. We're gonna. Anyway, okay.
Well, like I said, free for all, Dan. That's what I'm kind of counting on.
That's why I am so glad, he said on a tangent, Doctor Who is back.
Yay!
Look.
We could pivot to Doctor Who if you want.
No, but it's like, it's so nice to have escapism. It's so nice to go.
And sometimes in horrible times, that's when the best fiction is written as escapism. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what else can you say? Yeah. But I like the first episode. We can talk Doctor Who now. We can save Silver Surfer for the end.
First episode.
Doctor Who, New Companion. I liked it. I was pleased. I saw Moffat say that, it was going to be kind of a good jump on episode, which I think they did a good job. Now, remind me, Whovian trivia man, that was a Patrick. The two pictures on the Doctor's desk were River.
Yes.
And also, it was definitely a Patrick Troughton.
Nope.
It wasn't a Patrick Troughton companion?
No.
Who was that?
William Hartnell. It was First Doctor. It's his granddaughter, Susan.
Oh, that was Susan?
That's Susan.
That sure as hell didn't look like... Well, maybe that was Mod Susan. I'm used to 1963 and 1982 Susan in the Five Doctors.
That's Susan.
Okay.
It's his granddaughter.
I thought that might have been the one companion that died on him.
No. There have been some deaths, but the big death was Adric.
Well, of course, yes, during Peter Davison. Earthshock. Yes, I remember it well.
With the silent credits.
Yes, and his broken mathematics badge that the Doctor used to kill the one Cyberman.
Yep, use the gold edge. Yeah.
We both have to prove our Who cred by knowing that stuff. But that's cool. Okay, I didn't realize that was Susan, and that makes a lot of sense. Okay,
that's Susan, and when you think about it, there's a lot of stuff in there that is leaning into the Hartnell of it all, the First Doctor of it all.
No question.
Where this season, and it's not even a spoiler anymore because they showed them in the coming up this season, after the first episode.
Oh, my damn DVR literally stopped at the last minute, and I didn't even get what he said when he was enticing her finally to come into the TARDIS and join him and everything.
Oh, it's quite lovely. He kind of Doc Browns and says, "Oh, what the hell?"
Okay, cool.
Come in.
But what's teasing? Tell me what's teasing that revealed.
They're not just doing Cybermen this season. They're doing Mondas. They're doing 10th Planet.
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
They're doing like original Cybermen, where it looked like they're wearing like ski masks.
Yeah. Oh, they're showing them like that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're gonna first generation Cybermen.
Oh, that's awesome.
Planet. Yeah, which is William Hartnell.
That's fantastic.
I
thought that was Troughton.
No. Troughton's Tomb of the Cybermen, where they get the visual.
Yes.
But original Mondasian Cybermen from 10th Planet. That's they're doing classic. You can't get more classic Cybermen than this, and that's First Doctor. And in the episode, Bill, his new companion, the girl Bill has a crush on, Heather. When you look at it, the couple, Bill and Heather, Bill Hartnell and his wife Heather.
Oh, that's cute. I didn't even recognize that. That's fantastic.
It's an inside joke.
That's great.
So what was really wonderful about Pilot was it was the best jump on episode since the 11th hour, the first Matt Smith.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the best jump on point for like 7 years. It really held your hand and walked you through because you're seeing the whole story through Bill's eyes. It all this stuff in there, and yet there was Easter eggs in there for all the faithful, but nothing that if a new timer heard it would derail them.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, what else did I miss? What other Easter eggs were there?
I know you saw next to the two photos there was the cup of sonic screwdrivers.
Yes.
Of
True.
all the different era doctors.
Yep.
And what was lovely was the one that he gives to Nardole to use it's the Tom Baker screwdriver. So you're like, yay!
Oh, that's funny. I didn't even, I knew it was a sonic screwdriver. It didn't occur to me that it would be.
They're all specific ones where you look at them. The TARDIS has an out of order sign on it. Okay. And they had an almost identical sign, but without a border, but pretty much identical. It's pretty much a tip of the hat to Hartnell.
Yeah, I was going to say for Unearthly Child or the first episode.
Hartnell had the out of order sign. There are all these little touches that were, throughout the whole run. There were little touches. Some of them from Capaldi's run where he's playing the Beethoven's Fifth. On the guitar, and there's that opening scene in the two-parter Before the Flood, and there was the bust of Shakespeare. There are all these little touches throughout the whole thing, and you just go, "Oh, that's lovely." That's
cool. I'm gonna have to obviously go online and get the list or whatever.
There's so many Easter eggs.
Oh, I'm sure. That's cool.
But that's how you do it. You do it as Easter eggs. You don't do it as something that'll make you stumble when you're. Right. Yeah.
And am I wrong? Was the reason why he was staying at the university so long, was that a promise to River or something after, they had their one night that lasted 30 years or whatever?
There is the vault. There is something under the university that he has clearly put there that he and Nardole are keeping guard over, keeping watch over, and it has Gallifreyan symbols on it. So even though it's a vault, there's no real reason why when you open that vault it couldn't have bigger on the inside Gallifreyan tech. It could be a mansion, it could be a cube, it could be anything. There could be anything on the other side of those doors.
Interesting. Okay.
And they did multiple teases, so like, what's in the vault?
Right. Well, and when they went into that skirmish, I assumed that they were going into the Time Lord Dalek War.
Me too. I thought they were going to close that loop from Day of the Doctor.
Yes, with the disappearance of Gallifrey. Yes.
Yeah, where you see Capaldi's eyebrows for a second. I thought they were going to close that loop, but then someone pointed out to me, like, if they did, boy, that would have been inside baseball. And that wasn't what that episode was about. It was about taking you by the hand and reintroducing you to this new world. It really was a quote-unquote pilot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's what Moffat was describing and everything, and you would assume with that title, but then I like the way they solved it story-wise as well, that was the reason why it was called Pilot.
Because there's the way our fan brains work, where we're trying to find puzzle pieces and do things, and how does it all connect, and it's going to be cool. Like, there's a JMS story where Spider-Man has an adventure and Loki is there, and at the end of it, Loki owes him a favor.
Yep.
And almost every freaking story since then, every fan thinks the solution is going to be Loki's favor. And you're like,
I thought Loki gave him the favor, but go on.
No, he hasn't. He's never paid it off.
Oh, wow. I had thought that the moment that, and I remember Ramita drawing it, where Peter got to see Uncle Ben.
No, there's a favor and that Loki owes Spider-Man, and it's something that JMS wrote, and he never paid off.
Interesting.
And so many fans think, like, every story you're doing, oh, maybe Loki will repay the favor. and part of you goes like, I don't give a rat's ass about Loki's favor. I'm never dealing with it.
That's hilarious.
Another writer did that. I feel no obligation to close that loop.
That is very funny. I understand.
But conversely, if another writer did it, I wouldn't blink. I'd almost be like, thank you for tying up that loose thread, because it literally is a Deus Ex Machina, and who wants to use a Deus Ex Machina to solve their story?
Yeah, that's cheap. I hear what you're saying. Absolutely. Yeah, no, and that's a good writer lesson. So I'm glad you throw that out there.
No, it's such a mixed blessing to have that floating, but where there's other things too, where it's like. one of the Spider-Man writers built up a big mystery about this armored Spider-Man villain called Facade.
Okay.
And to make it even worse, his name isn't Facade. It's the acronym Facade. So it's fully automated carapace. It's the most. Ugh, I can't even use up part of my brain to remember what Facade spelled. But they had done and had wonderful success with kind of Who is the Hobgoblin.
Okay.
As a mystery, and people were deeply invested in that.
Oh, yeah.
And this writer was trying to duplicate that magic with Who is Facade, and he brought in like a whole cast of characters that it could be, and one or two of them was like Lance Bannon or Jonah.
Okay.
And then like 5 guys you couldn't give a rat's ass about.
Sure.
You know, like it's clearly one of them. And they would only be brought on if there was a Facade story, and then like no one else would deal with them any other time. So you had no investment in any of these guys, and they never solved the riddle of Who is Facade. And every now and then I'll be at a con or someone will be reaching out to me on Twitter or saying, "What is the mystery of Facade?" You know, what's the answer? I'm like, when are you going to tell that story? And I'm like, never.
Attaboy.
I don't care. I don't care about Facade. There was like this one story I did where Spidey's having this super busy day and he has to keep doing all this stuff or New York's going to explode.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And he's just doing one thing after the other, and nothing's helping, and New York is still going to explode. And one of the things he does is you see him capture Facade. He's webbed him up. And it's the first time you've seen Facade.
Well, that's why people are asking you. Go on.
Well, no, because this was me dealing with this. Like, you know, because everyone kept saying, bring back Facade.
Okay.
So I brought him like in one panel where he's webbed up. And Spidey's talking to like the guy who's helping him. Like, did that do it? Is New York safe now? Then meanwhile, in the background, Facade is like, Spider-Man, my greatest enemy. You have captured me. Now I guess I must reveal the secret of Facade. And Spider-Man's like, yeah, whatever. I'll talk to you later. And he goes off. And that was me just messing with those like 8 guys.
Yeah, the 8 people that want Facade. That's awesome.
People every now and then people go, okay, Facade, and they spell out, what does that stand for? It stands for I don't give a crap who Facade is.
I respect that. Absolutely.
So
I didn't see Class.
Okay.
How was it?
I enjoyed it. To be completely honest and fair, I cheated. I'm very much against torrenting and illegal downloading, but I am a Doctor Who junkie. And when Class was coming out, I cheated and I watched the first 2 episodes.
Oh, are we behind Great Britain's release of Class? Go ahead.
They have seen all of Class in the UK.
Oh, so it was before this season.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had seen the first 2, and then by the time I finished watching the second one, I went, I am a big hypocrite. I am not illegally downloading anymore. I will wait till this gets to the States. I will stick to my I fell off the wagon, but I am getting back on, and I am not illegally downloading any more of this. I am bad. You know, and I will just stop. And I'm friends with the producer Derek Ritchie who works on that.
Okay.
And he was like, I can throw you the episodes, and I want you to see them. I'm like, no, I'll wait and watch them in America. So I'd already seen the first episode.
Okay.
But I on Monday I went out to the theater because I love that they do this. I wish
I do too. Go ahead.
Do more where the Fathom event shows them on the big screen.
Yep.
So I'd already seen the pilot on TV, and now I was like going back to see it on the big screen with a Marvel friend who's really into Doctor Who. We were watching, we were all happy. Hey. And they showed Class there on the big screen. We watched it. We're like, yeah.
Oh, they put them together. So it was 2 hours.
Yes, you had a 2-hour thing, and that was lovely.
Did they do any special intros or anything?
They did a special in between, and I was kind of mad at them because the person I was seeing it with, she hadn't seen the pilot. and they did a making of special, and they ran it before the thing they were doing.
Oh, so it revealed a lot of shit.
It spoiled some things.
Right.
Why? What? Fathom? Why would you do that?
Yeah, you do it the way they do it in England and stuff, and show it after the episode.
After, yeah,
absolutely.
That drives me crazy.
That's really crazy that they would do it that way too, because obviously they're getting the footage from the BBC.
Well, they're just assuming that everyone's already seen it.
True, it's 3 days after the
It's 3 days after the premiere. And it's someone who's dedicated enough to spend the money to go and see it in the theater. They figure that person is someone dedicated enough to have probably already seen it.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. And, I wouldn't presume though, and I would say no, do it that way, just in case.
I took someone to Fathom Events someone who was a casual, like they knew who the Star Trek Next Gen characters were from the movies, but they hadn't really seen the series. And Fathom was showing Best of Both Worlds as a movie.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, man, this is one of the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, my God, yeah.
Next Gen. So I took them. They hadn't seen it. But the people at Fathom just must have figured that everybody has seen this.
Yeah.
So they did a making of and a retrospective special before the thing.
Interesting.
Gave away so much of what happened in it. And I was going crazy because the person I was with had never seen it. And I'm like, close your ears, close your eyes, don't listen to this. Oh, my God, oh, God. And the special kept going. And then they went to... And they
two-parter.
They did the worst thing in the world they could have done to that two-parter.
Did they? Go on.
I think you know.
I suspect what it might be.
Go for it.
Mr. Worf, fire. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. And did they not show that?
They didn't cut away. They didn't cut to the blank screen and the to be continued.
And dude, remember that as a kid when we were watching that 30 years ago or 25 years ago?
Yes.
And we're just like, what? No. What? Like the best Star Trek Next Generation had ever been up to that point, because those first two seasons, man, they hit their head on the ceiling a lot.
But
you know,
the best thing about that freaking two-parter is it leaves you hanging.
Yes, and you just that Riker's got the balls to do it, and he goes black, and all you see is to be continued, and we were screwed for, 4 months or whatever. It's like, all right, see you at the end of September.
Yeah, and they seamlessly cut it. Which it changes the beat completely, because now it's not, I'm firing on Picard and I don't care. Like, I'm doing what I have to.
Yep.
And then when you come back and he does the bit, it's completely ineffectual.
Right.
So it changes the beat of fire. Pew, it didn't work. Damn. And you're like, you just ruined one of the best sci-fi beats of all time. Because you made it all one nice, continuous movie. You fucks.
I hear you, man.
Yeah. One of the things they showed in the special was this great story of Patrick Stewart, where he's driving with his top down in California, and this minivan pulls up next to him, and there's a family inside at a light, and the window rolls down, and the wife is like leaning through, going, like, Patrick Stewart, yeah, and like, you ruined our summer.
Yeah, that's awesome. God, well, I gotta ask about Star Trek Discovery. Are you psyched? Are you nervous? Or
oh yeah, any kind of new Trek. I'm there.
I'm totally there too. And so Jesse Alexander on the writing staff, which made me ridiculously happy. And I'm like, I got to track him down, man. I got to get Loeb to reconnect me with Jesse, because he's a great writer.
I'm excited for whenever you do. I'm going to give anything a fair shot. I'm going to be there with bells on. I was there for the Paul McGann movie.
Hell yes, for Doctor Who. Damn straight. Man.
You're like, please be good. And then, you're there for Phantom Menace, and you're like, please be good.
Yes.
And you're there for Force Awakens, and you're like, please be good. And it's always so nice when you're surprised, and you're like, oh, good. Do you like the Fox movie? The McGann movie? No.
Of course, yeah, no, neither do I. But to be honest, and I'm sure you feel the same way, those Big Finish dramas really redeemed McGann's Eighth Doctor, and it's like, oh no, he's absolutely worthy and is a fine Doctor.
It didn't just redeem it. He kept the franchise going.
He sure did.
During the Wilderness years.
Yeah, man. No, you're right.
God bless Paul McGann. That's why we get to have New Who.
This is very true.
That he is the lifeboat. It's just wonderful that we got.
Man. But those guys do great stories.
Big Finish is fantastic, but the fact that that movie on its own, that's not a good movie.
I only love, and it's so violent, but I do love Sylvester McCoy's opening scenes and his regeneration. That's the best thing about that.
No,
because honestly,
he gets mowed down by bullets.
I understand, but that really was a shock, and to me was all bets are off.
Because it was terrible.
Oh, you see, I respect that opinion, and for me, it was like, wow, that's the last thing I expected, and sadly, that's part of that '90s zeitgeist of more violence means better stories.
But it was the last thing you expected because it was the last thing they should have done.
That's fair.
It's like, oh, don't do that. That's right up there with Carrot Juice, Carrot Juice, Carrot Juice.
I don't know that. Is that from a Carrot Top movie?
Oh no, it's with Colin Baker. The way he regenerates is the ship bounces around and he slams his head into the console. Like, it's the most...
Oh, I didn't... Because, I don't think I ever saw that first. I know it was after the writer's strike, and they didn't even let Colin Baker play the role. They had, like, some,
a double with a wig. Yeah. And then when they do the regeneration, they blur the face. And then they put the wig on Sylvester McCoy. And then they blur it some more, and then they take the wig off, and he gets up, and he's Sylvester McCoy. But it's... because of that, the last thing you ever see of Colin Baker before that strike and whatnot, the last thing you ever see is the end of Trial of the Time Lord. Right. He now is with Mel, and they're in the TARDIS, and she has him working out on an exercise bike and drinking healthy drinks, and one of them is carrot juice. So, like, the last thing Colin Baker ever says is being angry at Mel at the end of an episode and going, carrot juice, carrot juice, carrot juice. And those are his last lines ever as Doctor Who.
Well, but, again, Big Finish, thank God.
It gets miscredited to this guy who gave a talk and used the title. But there is a sci-fi fan, who coined this phrase. His name was Peter Graham. And it's one of the great truisms of our industry and fandom in general, which is the golden age of science fiction is 12.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not the 40s or the 50s or the 60s. It's whatever was playing when you were 12 years old.
Absolutely.
Is the greatest thing in the world.
100%. Absolutely. No question.
It's all the imagination and the suspension of disbelief you will bring to anything when you're 12, where that becomes your touchstone.
Yep.
And that's why certain people will love this thing that is complete and utter crap. And it's the same thing with you. Where, like, when I was the right age, like, Knight Rider is the greatest thing in the world. And then you go and you try to watch it as an adult, and you're like, oh, this is horrible. This is really, truly bad.
Yep.
But, you watch it when you're 12 and you're like, oh, this is the best.
Absolutely. I'm trying to, there was like some old Turner Classic movie that I think when I saw it as a kid, I'm like, this is amazing. And now I'm like, oh, really? What the hell was I thinking? Certainly the beach movies fall into that category.
Yeah. And there's like some horrible, you pity someone who thinks Space Hunter and the Forbidden Zone is as opposed to recognizing it for cheese. Or like when I was a kid, and I was watching all the Adam West Batmans and not understanding the satire.
Right. No, it's high drama. High drama.
Just taking it at face value.
Yep.
And being invested in it. And if Mr. Freeze has Batman and Robin in a giant snow cone maker and they're going to be, smothered in syrup, I am seriously worried if they're going to live.
The giant clam. Robin and the giant clam.
Yeah.
It's great. This fall for the Return of the Cape Crusaders DVD, I got to be on the press junket and they were press roundtables. So I was literally sitting next to Adam West. And it was so great. And he's like, when we made the show, it played on several levels. If you were a kid, it wasn't a comedy. And he looked directly at me and he said, "You didn't think it was a comedy, did you?" And I'm like, "No, it was high drama, sir." And he started laughing. And I'm like, "Yeah, we get it."
Yeah, exactly. I remember one of the ones where Liberace was the villain.
Yes, Chandel.
Yeah, and the
Harry, his brother.
Yes, and the cliffhanger.
Yes,
is Batman and Robin on sheet music for player pianos that's going to get punched in, and they are going to get a million holes punched into them, and they're going to be killed,
perforated to death. Exactly, and then you hear a player piano as they're winding closer to it.
Yes,
absolutely.
And I was transfixed. I was like, how are they going to get out? Wait, but now here's the thing. You cut back to the next episode, and of course the bad guy leaves the room.
That's the
end. And they're on the conveyor belt, and they're heading towards the thing, and Adam West is like, "Boy Wonder, do what I do." Yeah, and when they come out the other side, Batman had figured out the song that would make a perfect Batman-shaped hole around him, which wouldn't just not have perforated him, but also cut through all their bonds, freeing them.
Fortunately.
Yeah. And they both get up, and Robin, and since it wasn't him using his utility belt, and even as a kid, I realized that was a Deus Machina, that he could have the anti-shark repellent, he could have anything. But the fact that he used his mind, and the fact that Batman had figured out the melody and harmony that would effectively save both him and Robin blew my mind. And of course, because he's a genius.
Yes.
Oh my God, he'd have to have the right pitch. I totally bought it. I totally accepted it.
Yeah, the three stages of watching Batman. You're 4 years old, high drama. Somewhere around 13 or 14, you're like, all right, whatever, too corny. And then, like, late high school or college, you're like, oh, this is supposed to be satire, and this is genius.
There was a Tom Baker Doctor Who where he is strapped down to a table, and the thing that is binding him the thing that's binding him and his companion are vines.
Okay.
Right? And the same way you would pull someone apart with horses,
sure.
Yeah, so he's stretched out.
Is this Leela?
Yeah, I want to. It's either Leela or Romana 1.
Okay.
It's that zone.
Got it.
And there's a skylight above them, and the sun is drying out the vines, so it's stretching them and going to kill them. And you're like, and he can't reach anything. How's he going to get out? And I remember, as a kid, going like, "Oh my God, Doctor Who is screwed." And what happens is the clouds break and it's raining, and it gives them a reprieve. And the doctor, but the minute the cloud clears, the sun will come back up, and they're screwed again. And the vines aren't getting any, they're not getting any, not drier. So the doctor goes, "I know how to get out of this," and he goes, "Ah!" And the companion, doesn't hurt that much. He's like, "No, do what I do." Ah! And he hits the frequency that shatters the glass, so the water from the rain comes through. He gets the vines and he can get out. And you're like, nicely done.
Hilarious.
Genius.
Was Baker your first doctor that you were aware of, or do you remember Pertwee beforehand? And
when my family moved to England, we started with the Leisure Hive, which is Romana 2.
Okay.
And that's when I started watching regularly.
Okay.
So Peter Davison was the first guy I saw from start to finish of the Doctors. But when my grandma lived on the East Coast, and in fact the house we use for the Greenwood Inn is patterned after her house, and I've sent reference to Mike. But that house is where I would spend all my summers as a kid. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, we lived in California, and PBS on the West Coast didn't get Doctor Who, and on the East Coast it did. So when I'd be in like the New England, Boston area, my cousin like watched it, and I could see it. Like I kind of didn't know what it was, but it was awesome because it was a guy fighting monsters.
Sure, robots and everything, yeah,
and everything. And so they would do this thing, and you talk to Brevoort about it. Like he lived on the East Coast, so he got to watch it all the time. The way they would show them in the States on PBS, they would put a whole adventure in one night.
Yep. And
they weren't meant to be seen that way. So it really is a test of your stamina and fortitude. Because it's just endless corridor running.
That's true.
To pad out episodes. Like if you knew you could put this in one night, you could trim so much fat out of these.
Hilarious.
And they're perfectly fine if you're watching it for a half an hour. But if you stack them all together and try to do a whole adventure in one night, oh boy, does that hurt.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, especially with stuff like you try to watch it Inferno all in one bite, it'll break you.
That's Pertwee, right?
Yeah.
Is Inferno the alternate universe one?
Oh God, I want to say yes, but it's one of those things where it's such a marathon to get through it if you're doing it all at once. And Brevoort would do this as a kid; he would just get through all of it. And
well, me too, frankly. I mean, because that's how they did it initially in Chicago, it was run like 4 or 5 days a week, and you'd get the half hours. But ultimately, they did it together as a full movie. And Sunday nights it was Python, Dave Allen. Or the two Ronnies, and then Doctor Who for 90 minutes.
When I'd be there in the summers, I could watch it like you watched it in Chicago. I could watch it in New England. I could see a Doctor Who adventure, but you're a little kid. You never pull out the newspaper and see what's showing, or look at the times. You would luck into it and go, oh, and then you'd have to remember to be back next week at the same time to see it again. So there was one glorious summer where I got to see all of Genesis of the Daleks,
cool,
Ark in Space,
yes.
And there was like another summer where I saw Talons of Wen Chiang,
sure.
And something else. I want to say Robots of Death.
I think Robots of Death was the first time I saw Doctor Who.
I love Robots of Death. That's the one with the helium saves the day. where with all the robots are voice command. So Doctor fills up the conveyance they're all in with helium. And everyone's voice is like this. And then the robots can't understand. The robots don't follow orders. That's great. All the Tom Baker solutions were funny as hell.
Oh, he was awesome. He was the perfect entry Doctor because he was so weird and off the wall, and I mean literally was so perfect for the 70s and everything. And I'll be honest, I really grew to love Pertwee.
I want to say that I saw Robot in that zone too, which was the first Baker. But I'd seen all of that, and they did for a special one night. They did the Three Doctors.
Okay.
So I was aware. I'd never seen a William Hartnell because the other guy replaced him.
Right. In the Five Doctors, yeah.
Oh no! In the Five Doctors. Oh no, I did see William Hartnell, but I saw him as the old man trapped in a pyramid.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I understood I understood what regeneration was, and that multiple guys had been the Doctor before I moved to England and got to watch it regularly. So I had already kind of had like a primer on Doctor Who by just having seen some in America. But what I did, and this, I'm sure you're like this too. Most people are like, comic fans and people were like this, where you'd have schoolwork and you had books and things you had to read.
Sure.
But you read all this tons of stuff and saw that you weren't supposed to.
Right.
So, like, I so wanted to it's the way my Marvel DC brain worked.
Yep.
I wanted to understand the continuity. And they had the Target novelizations of the episodes.
Yes,
and
indeed.
we didn't. None of this stuff was on VCR. VCRs just come out.
Right.
So you wanted to understand this continuity. I had all this schoolwork to do. I'm in a foreign country. I just landed. I had to make sure I understood Doctor Who. So I went down to Forbidden Planet like every other week, and I would load up on the Target novelizations.
Absolutely.
Then I was burning through like 3 or 4 of them a week.
Well, they were luckily, short and large type and everything. I did the exact same thing the first time I knew the Three Doctors story. I read it before I saw it. And all those old Hartnell and Troughton adventures, and even a good handful of the Pertwees in those Target books. Yeah, man. No, and in fact, my first Doctor Who convention, I brought so many paperbacks to have the cast members sign. And I had Ian Martin. Wasn't it Ian Martin?
Yay! Harry.
Had him sign a book that he wrote. And I had Nicholas Courtney sign a book that he wrote or was in a unit book.
I got to meet Nicholas Courtney while he was alive and got him to sign something at Forbidden Planet on Tottenham Court Road. It was because he had come back for the Peter Davison as the headmaster in that school.
Yes.
And he was in the cover of Doctor Who Monthly or Weekly at the time. So he was autographing those, and I got to meet him because of that. But yeah, I was reading through all the Target novelizations, and it reached a point where whatever was the season before with Leisure Hive, the novelization came out, and I completed it. So I understood all the continuity, all the way back from An Unearthly Child, all the way up to what I was watching.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And when it was time to move, I had like those stacks of so that's all the first Doctor, second Doctor, third Doctor, and a lot of the fourth in all the novelizations. Sure. I gave them all to my high school library.
Yeah, I didn't keep mine either. I'm kicking myself.
Yeah.
The Visitation, the first Davison novelization, that had the picture of him on the cover, came to, and I'm sure that I forget what comic store it was that I bought it at.
Wait, let me just
go on.
Amaze you. Pteroleptals.
I don't remember that. Is that from the episode?
Yeah, pteroleptals. They're the green lizard aliens from the Visitation. with the worst costume, like really, you saw where the zippers were. They were the pteroleptals. You know what sucks? We're talking now, and you just throw out Visitation, and I throw out pteroleptals, or you ask who's in the photo, and I'm like, oh, that's Susan. You ask me all this stuff. I've got it at the tip of my tongue, and I got to have this dinner with Stephen Moffat and Paul Cornell, and
yes,
and I brought up a Dalek story, and then my mind went blank, and I couldn't do the title. And they were looking at me like, you don't know Doctor Who.
Oh, that's all.
but they were British, so their faces were slightly polite. So I was like, oh, no, why am I going up now?
That's awesome. I understand.
Of all times.
You really, man, exactly. When you're with the chess masters and you don't bring your A game, exactly. I understand.
Oh, but there is the most wonderful video of when Capaldi and Moffat and Mark Gatiss,
yeah.
They were in Australia, and they went to a pub trivia challenge.
Okay.
As a team. And they got a Doctor Who question for the finale, and they got it wrong.
Wow.
Yes, and between the three of them,
yeah, really,
they are like lords of Who.
I know. I love the fact that Capaldi is as much of a fan of the show. I mean, he's even beats Tennant in terms of I think his fandom, and I know he has the letter in Doctor Who magazine or whatever.
Radio Times.
Oh, there you go, Radio Times.
Yeah. No, the minute they get it wrong. And it's announced wrong, all three of them have the word. They all no, and they all collapse onto the table in unison. And it's so human and wonderful that Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Yeah,
It's
man. No, I might have to post the link on our episode. But go on.
it's just lovely. But no, he was the head of his like Doctor Who like local. He
Like
put out
Network or whatever.
he put out a fanzine and he did the art for the covers. Capaldi, he was
Wow.
yeah. And there's that letter to Radio Times where he's very cross at. He doesn't think the person in charge of the National Doctor Who fan club is doing a good job and wants them removed. And he knows all this stuff. And the tales are that when on days when they don't need the Doctor on set, when there are monsters there, he goes because he wants to see the Daleks and he wants to see all the different monsters and
Cool.
he'll hang out on the TARDIS when he's not on set. He so loves Doctor Who.
That's
and
cool.
Yeah. That's he understands like the legacy and the
Yes.
how much it means and he's a fan of every version of the Doctor and it's just it's just lovely.
Have you had the pleasure? Because I know you're on a roll with your meeting the doctors and stuff.
Yes, I want to kick myself for October because it was a day I wasn't at the show, but I had pulled strings so that I could see the Doctor Who panel. But they had it at Madison Square.
I was going to say at the Garden, yeah.
At the Garden, so I had nice seats for that in the reserve section because I pulled strings,
Attaboy.
and I got to see it. But it never dawned on me that was their day of doing, press junkety stuff. So of course they were going to go back to the show, and there was a time where they hung out at the upstairs in the MarvelLive.com area.
Oh,
yeah, and I got a text going, Dan, they're here because everyone assumed I was at the show, but I saw them at Madison Square Garden. And they went home, and now I'm home, and I'm like. I'm like a good half hour, 45 minutes away. I'm like, no.
Oh, that's the worst. I'm sorry.
I could have been there. But I did a show, his first American show. I made a point of going to that show, of being a guest at that show, and I got to meet Capaldi, and he was lovely.
Cool.
So yeah, I've met like everybody.
Well, I know we've talked on the show when you met Tennant and when you met Smith.
Everyone's been lovely.
Who of the older doctors? Who have you met?
It's easier to say who I haven't met.
Okay, go for it. No, that's cool.
I've met so many of these guys.
Obviously, the three that are dead. So the first three we understand.
I have not. I had a chance when I was in England. They were doing a signing. But it's nothing I could use any of my string pulling for. So I would have had to wait in line with a million people. And I was like, I'm only in England for so little time. I'm not going to spend like 6 hours in a line. So I missed the chance to meet Baker. So I haven't met Tom Baker. I haven't met, no one's met Eccleston. And
right.
I've yet to meet Paul McGann.
Okay.
So those are the three doctors. And I have pretty much met every single modern day companion.
Okay.
Except now Pearl Mackie.
Bill. Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
So yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay.
So that's like the wish list.
When I was a kid, I met Pertwee, Davison, and Baker because it was the 20th anniversary. I'm still so bummed that I didn't see Davison when he was in Chicago for C2E2 during the 50th year, because I could have said, man, last time I saw you was 30 years ago. Because I was going to say that about the Visitation, and I'm sure I've said this before. He and Sandra Dickinson came to a comic store. I want to say Larry's Comics in the city. And I stood in line and got their autographs, and they were wonderful. And I had watched Hitchhikers, and Sandra Dickinson told me that Peter was the dish of the day, and I didn't know that. It was great. No, they could not have been sweeter. And everyone I met, I mean, even Baker was great. Baker had a one man, just him. It was just a one man show, and same with Pertwee as well. They were one man shows, and both were incredibly great with the audience and stuff, and very very funny and just great. And all the companions that I met were all the old Davison companions. It was Nyssa, Tegan. I did meet Harry, and I met the Brigadier. Yeah, those were my Who encounters as a kid.
When I was a kid, I had the briefest encounter with Davison, very brief. But I met the Nicholas Courtney, and the actor Mark Strickland, who played Turlough.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
Did I get the name right?
Turlough, yes.
This time around, it's the thing I got to say is everyone I've met, everyone's just been such wonderful ambassadors to this show.
Yeah, definitely.
I've yet to meet like a rude Who person.
Yeah, rude Whovian. Yeah, I can appreciate.
Yeah, so they've all just been so nice and
cool.
so wonderful with the fans.
Had massive crushes on Tegan and Nyssa when I was 14, and they lived up to expectations. They were lovely and could not have been sweeter, and they were very nice ladies.
I had the posters on my wall in high school. I had a Leela and I had a Nyssa on the wall for Doctor Who stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, it was, man. I'm just thinking about like what was on my wall, and because I had a Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones.
Nice.
Two different Indiana Jones.
Was it that Drew Struzan poster?
I had I still have it, and I really should get it framed. They have in the UK, like at the tube station, they have the big posters they put on the side of the train, and then on the side of where the passengers.
Yeah,
they have smaller ones.
Yeah,
but they're still huge.
Yeah.
There was a store near Forbidden Planet where you could buy them that hadn't been put up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I have the original indie for that. So it's massive. This massive Indiana Jones poster that would have been up in the subway station.
Hilarious.
I had that up on the wall with blue tack. Did not want to put pins in it, and I had from Temple of Doom where like the sleeves are ripped off and he's got the sword and he's just about to cross the bridge. That poster. Harrison Ford.
Cool.
I'm trying. When I was a kid, when I was like in elementary school, my room was like a shrine to superheroes, and it was these posters of Christopher Reeve as Superman,
cool,
Linda Carter as Wonder Woman, Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk, Nicholas Hammond as Spider-Man.
Outstanding.
Those were like the 4 big posters up on the wall. It was like, yeah. And you'd think, oh, wow, he's a kid. He's obviously, staring at the Linda Carter thing going, no, I was a kid. It was Wonder Woman, Superman, the Hulk, and Spider-Man on my wall. It was like awesome. There was not a hint of that. It was all just, yay, superheroes.
No, I understand. It's funny. Art Baltazar makes custom Migos because he collects the originals, but also likes to make custom ones. Did a great one of the all black costume of Daredevil from the Netflix series. Things, that was an easy one. But I told him, I said, dude, you got to do Red Brown Captain America from the 70s Marvel movies. He's like, that's a great idea. I can do that.
So, no, that's horrible.
Yeah, no. It is. But then again, it is kind of cool, and I'm telling you, Artie does a great job. The books that the really good giant size Tasham did that DC at 75, book that'll crush your lap if you put it on. It'll cut off your circulation. But there's a great picture of all these Migos, and not only do they have the original ones, but they have a bunch of customs, and like 90% of the customs are Artie's. So, like, he does a really good job of making these things, and I'm sure he could do a good Red Brown Captain America.
Oh, why?
Because it'd be funny.
Why?
That plexiglass shield.
Shield. Oh, those were. It was the 2 movies or 1?
2.
It was 2. Yeah.
And his spy handler is the guy. I just saw Silver Streak again, and he's the cop that kind of brings in Gene Wilder and is like, Caldwell, we've been following you for months or whatever, and he's the guy that Simon, that is Steve Rogers' Oscar Goldman, to put it in $6 Million Man terms.
Those are horrible,
absolutely horrible.
It's like I can watch the Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man and still have great affection for them.
Agreed. I agree. Well, again, 12 years old. I'm with you. Yes.
I cannot get through those Captain America.
No, they're rough. They're pretty bad. They're really bad.
I can get through the
Doctor Strange.
No, not Doctor Strange.
I like Doctor Strange actually.
Oh, what's his name? Rex
Reed. Reed, who did Rex Mason?
Smith?
It might be Rex Smith. Yeah, who was Daredevil in the Incredible Hulk TV movie? It is Rex Smith, I want to say.
Yeah, and he also breath away. Yeah, one hit wonder. Take my breath away.
Exactly.
He was also Street Hawk, and do not badmouth Street Hawk.
All right, I won't. It's just kind of like, oh God, what was it called? Mike Grell's mercenary character from First Comics, and it had 7 episodes. His name is Savage? No, not his name is Savage. That's Gil Kane.
Sable?
Yeah, Sable. Yeah, John Sable.
No, but it was like Rex Smith. I can watch that Daredevil episode.
I agree. Yeah, that's the only that, and also I have to say the last.
The Thor?
No, the Thor one sucks too.
Oh, come on!
Oh, it's horrible. Oh, dude, horrible. No, but what I will say is at least the death scene.
Oh, that's one with the female chameleon. Yeah.
Yes. And just, I'm sorry, David. He's like, don't be sorry, I'm free. And he dies. And and they play the sad piano music.
Yeah, they were gonna bring him back. There was gonna be another movie. That's why they were allowed themselves to have that down ending, because he was gonna, bop out of the grave as the Hulk. Then they never the ratings weren't good enough to get one more movie.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Bill, that show is great. That show has that one episode that's a combination of Saw and The Most Dangerous Game, where the big game hunter is hunting and sees David Banner change, and he's like, David, I had no idea. This is even better than hunting humans. And he's all excited about hunting the Hulk, and he sets up these like Saw-like scenarios of, okay, you got 15 seconds to make it to this thing, or a booby trap is going to go off. And I don't even want to spoil it, because if you have access to either on Netflix, if they're still on Netflix or whatever, go watch that episode. And it has a very cool surprise ending.
All right. There's some good stuff in there. I remember there's one where he has to. Is it McGee, the reporter, who has to hunt him down?
Yes.
There's one where he has to help McGee.
Yes.
And it's the one where McGee finally learns that the Hulk is a guy who turns into the Hulk.
John Doe. Yes, when he's got the big bandage over his face.
Yes, I loved that.
Oh, that's a great one. No, and then subsequent episodes when he'll see the Hulk running away and he's like, John, stop, because he called him John Doe. And and you can tell that he really wants to, like, no, I'm not, whatever the motivation is now, it's different than when he was initially chasing the story, where he does feel a connection to David. And that's good writing, man. That was a good show.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's stuff in there. There was stuff in there. We're talking about the golden age is 12, but there's some nuggets.
Definitely. Well, that's the thing, man. And there's a reason why there were several Marvel TV projects running at that time. And the Hulk, you got to give it credit, man. Same with Wonder Woman. It's like, hey, man, to get 3 seasons back then.
Before they did the thing where they jump her to the 70s and give her the little robot running around on the floor.
Agreed.
Oh, so when it was just hardcore, it's her fighting Nazis.
Yes.
You're like, there's some great stuff in there. There's a lot of there's some bad too, but there's some great. You're like, way to go.
Yeah, they're fun adventures. No, absolutely, I agree. That's hilarious, man. You're killing me. Okay, that's part 1, and I thought that was a great place to pause. And cannot wait to share part 2 with you. I'm going to give it a day, though, to give people a chance to really listen to this. And this is great. If you're enjoying warm weather and you want something to listen to while you're outside and moving and enjoying the springtime weather, I think you're in for not only this conversation, but also the next one. I'm going to take care of you. I know the East Coast is finally getting some warm weather. We're getting our cold weather. It sucks. Really got teased with great springtime weather at the beginning of this week, and we're ending chilly. But that's all right, because that will work as well if you're stuck and it's cold and rainy or whatever, and you're doing some spring cleaning inside. Word Balloon is a good companion for you. And I think Dan, again, will provide great entertainment in part 2 coming up on Word Balloon. Hope you enjoyed today's show, brought to you by InStock Trades at InStockTrades.com. There are great books like you can get Flash by Mark Waid, Book 2. Mark Waid, Greg LaRocque, Roy Richardson among the creative team, a Ty Templeton cover that, there they right are. It's Barry, Wally, and Jay all together. Can't wait for Jay to come back. They keep teasing us. So you're in that Batman Flash crossover, The Button, that, goes back to Jeff Johns' first Rebirth issue. It's good. They're hitting all the buttons, I'm telling you. So does Mark Waid and company on this Flash Book 2 hardcover, and it is 50% off, $17.49. Pretty good for 432 pages when you think about it. Green Lanterns, trade paperback, Volume 2, Phantom Lantern. Sam Humphries, this is his great book with Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz, the newest and most delightful of the Green Lanterns. Got to get Sam on to talk about this series. Jackson Herbert is the artist, along with Robson Roca, of course, and Eduardo Pansica. There we go. It's 42% off. Yeah, like they're my neighbors. $11.59 at InStockTrades.com. There's also, let's see, you can get Justice League Unwrapped by Jim Lee. I like these black and white presentations of Jim Lee's pencils and finishes. It's really lovely. Him and Jeff Johns doing the first story of the new 52. It's all your favorite V-necks in a battle of V-necks against Darkseid. I think the V-necks kind of win. But this book is 50% off, 42% off, $23.19. Still a great bargain. All of this and more at InStockTrades.com. I know I'm having trouble talking. You'll forgive me. Post C2E2, kids. I'm a little shot. But happy to present today's show and beyond. But get your great deals now at InStockTrades.com. Thank you, League of Word Balloon listeners, for your support. Thank you for listening. As always, I say it, and I mean it. Thank you for your attention and patience with Word Balloon. I hope you're enjoying the conversations I've brought you in April. May is already lining up to be another great month. It's scary, man. I don't, it's kind of like when you're on a hot streak, you don't want to change any of your habits because you don't want to break the streak. And so I feel like, Hank Azaria's character on IFC, if you've been watching, is it Brockmeyer? Let me tell you, what a great guy. That's a funny sounding kind of sports play-by-play guy if you haven't watched the show. Very funny new sitcom. It's not really, you can't even call that shit a sitcom. It's just a cool comedy on IFC. Brockmeyer with Hank Azaria and Amanda Peet. I love it. It's about a baseball play-by-play man on the skids, and it is raunchy and hilarious. And I cannot recommend it more. There are 5 episodes in. It is so damn funny. So there, even a free TV tip beyond the things that Dan and I talked about today. So more great stuff coming up with Dan Slott on the next episode of Word Balloon. Hope you join me. Until then, Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions. Copyright 2017.